Let's dive into the details of the shocking Des Moines, Iowa poll that showed Kamala Harris ahead of Donald Trump in Iowa just days before the election. The TLDR on this is there are obviously some huge caveats with this type of polling and reaching people, but at the end of the day, they did run this using the exact same methodology just back in late September, about 6 weeks ago, and it's a huge shift since then, which can only mean two things. It was just sort of unlucky sampling behavior, or it was an actual shift toward Harris over these last 6 weeks. So the first big question is, how do they actually contact people? So the pollsters were able to get a database of both landline and cell phone numbers from free and paid providers. Now, I will tell you, there are some shady data providers out there who have just an incredible amount of information about you. We've heard about this with those recent data breaches where basically everyone in America, your social, your number, your address is all leaked. So they're probably getting phone numbers from these same data sources that just have all the information on you. But this is the big thing. They are only using phone calls. So no texting, no email, nothing online, only phone calls to reach people. So do they actually reach people? Well, it turns out, as you might expect, that the response rates are in the low single digits. So to complete just 800 interviews, they had to place more than 100,000 individual calls. Now, on the surface, that could look like a less than 1% response rate, but it might take multiple calls to actually complete one survey. So the first big caveat to this is that they are counting on that this 1% of respondents is going to vote in the same way of the 99% of people who don't respond. And this is just going to be a problem with polling in general. There's nothing that they did wrong here. It's just this is just a problem with the way we reach people today. I will say this. I worked on an insider trader case. I used to be an economist at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and my team worked on a case, and this is all public information now, but they found that someone was able to, people who worked at a credit card company were able to commit insider trading by betting on companies where they knew about 1% of that company's transaction data, right? So you had people who worked for one credit card, and that credit card was responsible for about 1 to 3% of a company's total transactions. And they were able to use that as a representative sample to do insider trading. So 1% can be representative, but it's obviously not clear in this case if it will be. But now the results, we're talking about likely voters. And here I think is maybe the biggest weakness of the poll. They are only including people who answered that they will definitely vote in the election. So they asked people if you will definitely vote, probably vote, might or might not vote, or probably not vote. And they only included people who said that they were going to definitely vote. So I don't know. It's not crazy to me. Could you have a situation where, one candidate's supporters are very gung ho and they're like, yes, we're going to definitely vote. And others are just a little more mild and they say, yeah, I'll probably vote. But again, and this is the big positive for Harris, is that they use this exact same likely voter methodology on September 24th. So you're talking just 6 weeks ago, and Trump was ahead by about 4 points. Now, the other big thing is the margin of error. With about a sample size of 800 individuals, there's a margin of error of about 3. Now, if you go back to my last set of videos that I just posted and I show you the math of where this margin of error actually comes from, that is a margin of error on one individual candidate's total. And so for the gap, the margin of error is actually double. So if there's a margin of error of 3 for Harris, it's the exact equal and opposite for Trump. So the margin of error on the gap would be 6 points. And so both in September 24, when Trump was up 4, and now with Harris up 3, both are easily well within the margin of error of 6 for the gap. But no matter how you look at it, if whether you're within the margin of error or not, you still want to be ahead. And there's no question that not only is Harris ahead of Trump in this poll, but it's a meaningful jump of 7 percentage points, relatively speaking, from the September 24 poll. Now, I would love to know if someone else has seen this information, but I would love to know the results included the probably voters and maybe even some of the maybe voters as well. So especially those probably voters, like what would the results look like if they were included as well? I'd be really curious.